All right, so let us come together. We're early. It's only 3 minutes past. We usually say, okay, we're 5 minutes in. We have our team. We have our team as we are. Oh, it's 4 minutes in, so we're a minute early, no problem. But it's good we're all gathered, and if somebody else joins, wonderful. So let us give obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And give our jais to our guardians, and whose wealth everything is. It can be given, it can be withdrawn. To our wonderful guardians, Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rockok Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Prabhupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. And jai Srila Satchitananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. And jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Vaga ki jai. And all our present day Acharya Vrinda ki jai. So, Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratuje Namaha. Dear devotees, you've just completed Ram-navamī, and we have just completed Ram-navamī in the sense of the last time I was conscious, it was still Ram-navamī, and now I'm conscious again. Where do we go when we rest? We do not know, or very few people. I don't know if anybody knows. Even Lord Brahma rests. Even Mahavishnu shows he rests. Krishna shows he rests. Mahaprabhu shows he rests. Ramachandra shows he rests. Amazing. So let us not become great philosophers. We need to accept that we're in a circumstance where we have to rest, where we have to look after the vehicle that we're in. So it's Ramachandra's appearance day. We've all got stories from there, and maybe we can start by asking Divya Shakti Devi Rasi. You've just been with Jivana. So Divya Shakti Devi, would you like to share something you may have heard from Jivana just now that perhaps was new, or it doesn't have to be new, enlivening?
It wasn't Jivana, it was Sri Lanka Didi.
Oh, Sri Lanka, I know, my brain, you see, it's early in the morning, still
Your
half
brain,
asleep.
my brain. You have a brain, I have no brain. I have no heart. Just the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, very beautiful, you know. He was a perfect king. Oops, hold on. Trying to move here. Well, Jivana started, not Jivana, Sri Lanka. See, you're confusing me. I got confused. She was talking about the beginning of the Ramayana. And the story, we all know the story. And it's very beautiful. Even today, Devashish, I was listening to him with the Ramayana. And I almost feel like Devashish was almost starting to cry a little bit because it became so emotional. But I don't know where to begin because the Ramayana is such a big book and it's such a huge story. And I just left when, what was she saying? When Supanaka got her nose chopped off by Bharat because she wanted to marry Ram. And then Ram suggested that she go to Bharat. And then they went back and forth like this. And then it went back to Ramachandra. And Ramachandra denied because he said, I have a beautiful wife. I am only taking one wife. And when she saw Sita, she became very envious and she went to grab Sita to attack her. And then Bharat cut off her nose. And then she went running to her brother, Ravana. And she told him that I just wanted to marry him. And they cut off my nose. And I don't know why. So that's where I left. And it's, anyway, it's a very amazing story because Sita shows her loyalty to her husband Ramachandra. And even though she's a queen and she's a princess far beyond words that I could ever explain, her feet never touched the ground. And it was just amazing how she accepted the austerity to be with him and to follow him wherever he went. And that was very, very beautiful. A very chaste woman, the most chaste woman. And I think that's very beautiful. Also, when I was leaving, they were talking about the deer and it's so many pastimes. I really think you should talk, Maharaj, because I'm not a very good speaker, public speaker, and my thoughts are all over the place. So if you could just take over and tell the glories of Lord Ramachandra, it would be very beautiful.
If everything is perfect and you're not public speaking, you're speaking with the family. We're together in an ethereal temple room.
Yes, yes, yes. But I was just picking just a few pastimes and, you know, telling the glories of Sri Sita because she was very amazing. I had watched, not once, but many times I watched the Ramayana on a video from ISKCON and also Lav and Kush. And that story just breaks my heart, you know, how Sita went back into the earth, and it's just amazing. I really want to see it again. And I think this is how I learned all the stories of the scriptures, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, was through video and seeing it through the video and hearing it. And it gave me such an impact in my life because, you know, I could visualize it. And Sita's wedding was so beautiful, done by ITV. It was such a beautiful a video, and the pastimes were amazing, you know, about how Lord Ramachandra broke the bow, stringing it, not only stringing it, but broke it. And he won the heart of Sita Devi. And just amazing pastimes, the Ramayana. And I am just honored by that, to be able to come in contact with all this scriptural things in my life, you know. So I think we're very fortunate to know these stories and, you know, to recite them, to read them, to go over them every year and to remember them. It's just so beautiful. So anyway, I'm going to try to get them again because I really want to see the videos again. I don't have, I think that you can probably pull it up in the, on the internet and see them, but I would suggest Lav and Kush. It's so beautiful. It's very lovely. So that's all I can say. Of course, I could say more, but my thoughts aren't like synchronized so perfectly.
So what Devi Shakti is referring to when she's saying ITV, it's ISKCON television. And I don't know if they have a channel on YouTube, I'm not sure. But I've only seen one or two of their, I suppose, overall in my whole life, like 4 or 5 maybe, or 3 or 4 of their videos, and they were all presentable. And remember, it's coming from ISKCON, so we can think that they've got some standard and research and they're not doing anything too whimsically. But I would be definitely cautious about watching the Ramayana or anything on the commercial the
Right.
regular commercial television, because the things that we have, not wanted to see, but seen some things, then some of them are quite criminally wrong for the sake of, I don't know, whatever you want to say, commercialism, or just because the person who's producing the movie, he's, just picking up some parts and leaving other things out. And like hearing anything about the spiritual things, we need to hear through the devotees. So the ISKCON TV probably is fairly safe.
Yeah.
And now you've piqued probably all of our interest. We're all going to go and look for ITV and Love and Cash.
Yeah, the Ramayana is very beautiful. Just a beautiful story. Love and Kush, yeah. The
Love
two
and
other sons, and how Sita studied. Who was her teacher? Which she raised when she was pregnant. She was raised in the ashram of
Valmiki.
Valmiki. Yeah,
Right?
that was
Correct
amazing.
me if I'm wrong, Paramananda Ru, or anybody.
Paramananda Prabhu, where are you? Let me find you.
It's all right, Maharaj. And
There
even
you-
if it's wrong, it's still right.
There you are. Jai Paramananda
Devi
Prabhu.
Shakti Didi, Dandavad.
Dhanyavad, Paramananda Prabhu.
Just using this moment to say you're always in our hearts, undeletable.
I'm always thinking of you. I was speaking of you the other day.
Oh, all right.
So
Okay.
amazing, so enlivening. It's so uplifting to hear you speak. The last class I was watching was just amazing. I'm very grateful to have your association.
But Devi Shakti, let's get back to Love and Kush, Ramachandra, Sita, Lakshman, and others.
Yes.
Let's hear from Paramananda Prabhu about Love and Kush. Or whatever you like, but there's something in connection with the Ramayana, Prabhu, if you happily can share with us.
As you know, we were remembering, yesterday was a very intense day of remembering Ram Lila. It's happened to be the longest ever class in the morning, and and a post-class conversation, because Goswami Maharaj had so much inspiration and it was just pouring out of him. So a wonderful day. And I just want to remind that, like Divya Shakti Didi said, we actually grew up listening to Ram Lila. When we joined ISKCON, somehow Ram Lila was even more prominent than Mahabharata. So every evening, whereas young brahmacharis would just sit there and having a milk, and usually we would read Krishna book. And ironically, even before we joined Krishna consciousness, I had two books that were somehow related, spiritually related. I was looking for spiritual literature, but it's a communist country. So my first book was the Dictionary of the Atheist, because Krishna consciousness was mentioned there, Prabhupada was mentioned there, Vishnu, Krishna, everything was explained, and then refuted why it is wrong and why it is all just legends and it's not real. Anyhow, and I also had a copy of Ramayana published by the communist government with all the corrections, of course. There's nothing mentioned about Rama being Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we kind of heard about it even during that time, a little bit here and there. So thinking about Ramachandra stories, remembering Ramachandra stories, and again, coming to Thailand, I found myself in a country where Ramayana is the central epic. I mean, just think about it. The ancient capital of Siam, Thailand, was named Ayodhya. And all the kings of the Chakri dynasty, they're called Ram. Ram first, second, third, up to the 10th by now. And wherever you go, the palaces, the temples, you will see Ramayana on the walls, fully represented. And really, like this is you ask anybody in Thailand, literally anybody, you can go to a deep countryside and ask, do you know who Lord Rama is? Sita, Ravana, everybody knows. And they will tell you stories. So it is amazing how it is spread. I'm not mentioning Cambodia, actually mentioning it. Cambodia, Laos, Burma, Vietnam, Indonesia, big time, Philippines, all those countries. Even Japan, we can find connections with Ramayana. It is unbelievable. And in fact, and I mentioned yesterday, if I just say Hanuman, is there a person in the world who doesn't know who Hanuman is? And it is also wonderful because that was the intent of Ramachandra, to glorify his devotee. And in one of his talks, Srila would have said, before we even start talking about Ramachandra, let us take dust from the lotus feet of Hanumanji. He is the perfect servitor. And by his grace, we can go on, glorify Lord Ram. And that will give him pleasure, and we will get his blessings and become somehow qualified to say that. But anyway, coming back to Love and Kush. So we hear everything went happily, and they started living happily ever after. In Ayodhya, Sita is there, Ramachandra is back, Bharat is relieved. By the way, just a little correction, so we just put it right since the very beginning, Divya Shakti Didi, because you started with mixing up names, Jivana and then Shilekha Didi.
That was me.
Lakshman. Maharaj set a trend. So who was in the forest with Ramachandra, and who cut the Suparnaka's nose was Lakshman. And Bharat, he was a regent of Lord Ram. He was ruling on his behalf. He was ruling the kingdom and worshipping the sandals that he put on the royal throne. So that was Bharat. So now we know. Okay, it's all back to Ayodhya. And several years passed and everything is wonderful. In fact, it is mentioned, it was so wonderful that even though it was a Treta Yuga, it felt like Satya Yuga. The Ramachandra's rule was perfect and everybody was extremely happy. But it is a material world, Satya Yuga or not. There are always some people who are not satisfied, greedy, lusty, angry. And like the proper king, sometimes Ramachandra, you cannot really hear so much truth when you're sitting on the throne in a palace. As a king, it is your duty to know what your subjects are thinking, what are they feeling, do they have any needs that your ministers are not actually expressing to you. So Ramachandra, one day he dressed up as a regular man, and then he went walking around the city in the evening, in the darkness, so no one could recognize him. And then he overheard one conversation. A wife and a husband were fighting, and somehow a wife wasn't chaste enough for the husband, and the husband is chastising, ousting the wife out of the house and saying, I don't want to accept a woman like that in my house. Maybe a man like Ramachandra can accept a woman like Sita who spent a whole year in another man's house, but I'm not that kind of man. And then Ramachandra overhears that. And that triggers the whole heartbreaking part of the Ram Lila. When the next day, he orders Sita into exile. And like just thinking and talking about it is disturbing. And she's pregnant at that moment. She's already pregnant with twins, Lava and Kush. But the dharmic part of Ramachandra, it takes the prominent position here. And even though he is feeling so much love and impending separation from Sita, he decides to do that, showing example of the perfect dharmic king, perfect person in general, not just the king, but perfect person who teaches by his own example. If the king is a rascal, how can you expect anything good from the subjects? So here's that example. The king have to be absolutely perfect so that the subjects could take example from the king. So Sita goes to Valmiki Muni's ashram, and then he gives birth to two brothers, two boys, Lava and Kush. And then she tells Valmiki, please don't tell them Ramachandra is their father and Sita is their mother. Let them just call me mother and that's it. Don't talk about father so much. And they grow up and they become very well versed in music. They're always hearing the glories of Lord Ramachandra, because what Sita can talk about, she can only speak of Ramachandra. Her heart is burning in separation. So she is singing the glories of Ramachandra. And since early childhood, they're absorbing that and they're becoming great musicians. And she's also teaching them how to shoot the bow. Maybe it was Valmiki, maybe somebody else came, but they become very experts in fighting, the martial arts. So the two kids. And then the time comes and Ramachandra needs to perform Ashwamedha Yaga. It was the duty of the king, for the benefit of the kingdom, for the benefit of the earth, to perform this greatest sacrifice ever, Ashwamedha Yaga, the sacrifice of the horse. And I don't want to go into details about how this yaga is performed, but the horse is very important. The horse is released. It's always guarded and guided by the king's soldiers, just in case something goes wrong and he escapes or being attacked. So the horse is wandering, and there's always a retinue of soldiers around. And then somehow they come close to Valmiki's ashram. And then Lava and Kush, they saw the horse, and they seized the horse. They captured it. And of course, the soldiers attacked them. They were defeated. The news went to Ayodhya. Then Ramachandra sends, and nobody knows who are these two people, who are these two boys, but they're pretty tough. So Ramachandra sends Hanuman. Hanuman is defeated. He is in shock. Then Ramachandra sends Bharat, Shatrughna, and Lakshman. 3 of them are defeated. And then they start thinking, they have a council of war, and they're thinking, oh, these 2 boys, there's something special about these 2 boys. If we cannot defeat them on the order of Ramachandra himself, there must be some connection. So they just humbly approach them and say, can you please come and see our king? We don't want any bloodshed anymore. Please come and see the Ram. And of course, they're so happy because all their life they're hearing about Ram. They say, oh yes, we're very happy. Now we can go. So they go there, and at some point it is said, while they're going to the palace, they stop on the marketplace, and they're overwhelmed with the beauty of Ayodhya and the residents of Ayodhya. And they start singing Ramayana, playing the musical instrument and singing the Ramayana, I mean, the whole story. And people are, their hearts are melted. They're crying. There's a huge gathering around. And they're saying, please take them to Ram. Let the Ram hear that. It's so wonderful. And we have to understand that so many of the residents of Ayodhya, they were actually the veterans of war. The war wasn't long enough. So they have the memories, but even though their hearts are melted, it takes a whole different dimension. It's saturated with unique sweetness. Because the boys, their hearts are also melted with love for Ram, even though they don't know that he's the father. Anyhow, so they go to the palace, doing the same thing. Ram is crying, same effect. And he is saying, please, I'm so satisfied. Even though I was there, it's like hearing something absolutely new, hearing something absolutely wonderful, extra sweet. And then Ram saying, please, anything I can do for you, any blessings, any wish, I will do my best to fulfill. And of course, the boys are asking, can we see Sita? Now we saw you. So where is Sita? That's the only thing we're asking you. And then Ram starts crying. He said, oh, that's the only thing that I cannot give you, because I ousted Sita. I exiled her into the forest. Anyhow, I don't want to go into whole drama about what happened. So this is the story of Lava and Kush. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 9th canto, you can hear after Ramachandra, he rules for another 13,000 years. And after he leaves, then Kush becomes the king of Ayodhya, and he starts his own dynasty. So before it's Ikshvaku dynasty, Ramachandra appeared in Ikshvaku dynasty. And then dynasty changes and the Kush continues. And it's all in Srimad Bhagavatam for those who want to hear. And like Divya Shakti Didi said, and everyone should agree, it's impossible to cover all Ramayana. There's so many little stories, so many details, and they're all captivating and wonderful. And it will take days and days and days and days. Jai Ramachandra ki jai, jai Shri Hanuman ji ki jai, Lakshman Sita ki jai, Maharaj ki jai.
I have a question, and it can be to you, Paramananda Prabhu, to Kumkum Jivana Chinmoy, anybody who's heard from Gurudev or Guru Maharaj, actually from anybody, because you're listening to the tapes and things. But the question came up, and I don't know the answer, and I can't recall hearing anything from Gurudev, that we have 2 Ramayans, and we know that there's the Valmiki Ramayana, and we know that this is quoted, this is there, it's because it is very old. And but we also have the Tulsidas Ramayana. So can anybody comment on the Tulsidas Ramayana? I mean, I know, okay, I can say it is recent, and it is actually from just before Mahaprabhu's time. Tulsidas.
Maharaj, these are two prominent Ramayana tellers, storytellers, but Valmiki is accepted in our line, like widely accepted as the Vyasa of Ramayana, and Tulsidas is more of a modern version of that. And actually there are a few other versions that are not even considered, because everybody wanted to say something about it, as you understand. It's like Bhagavad Gita being commented upon, what, 708, maybe 1,000 times already, different commentators. So everybody wanted to be that Ramayana storyteller. But really, what I hear is always referring to Valmiki. But I haven't heard anything particularly on a Tulsidas subject. How good he is, how bona fide he is, that I haven't heard. Maybe Kumkum did he heard something.
Okay.
Or
Anybody has any comment, like a solid comment, says that, oh yes, Gurudev said this, or no? Okay. So it was a question, and there we are. And I also thinking that yes, we'll be safe and say Valmiki's Ramayana, but actually we are getting Ramayana. I mean, essentially we're not reading Ramayana. We don't have time to read Ramayana. This is Mahaprabhu's age, etc., etc. And but the content, the subject matter of Ramayana, we're getting from Guru Maharaj, Gurudev Srila Prabhupada. We're getting from Srimad Bhagavatam, as you pointed out too. And Guru Maharaj points out that the main purpose of Ramachandra's appearance was to show the perfect servitor relationship with the Lord through Hanuman. And so Hanuman we must always glorify with Ramachandra. And we know, and Guru Maharaj points out that Prahlad Maharaj, he's the ideal of the neutral relationship with the Lord, but full self-surrender. But in Prahlad Maharaj's case, then he's fully taking shelter of the Lord. But then more than that, Hanuman, he's in the position of service. He just wants to do service. He's got his focus on, just got his ear open for any command of anything, and he's ready to do that, with so many examples in that. And so the dasyaras, the servitorship to the Lord, exemplified in Hanuman to Ramachandra. Plus, of course, all the other, so many aspects of Ramachandra's appearance. And the Ramayana is an epic. And also it came about by the mercy of Narada Muni. This Narada Muni, he's a very special person. And
a great instigator.
Instigator of all sorts of things. And some things still inconceivable to us. I can use the word unconceivable because Gurudev actually usually used to say unconceivable, but inconceivable to us. Many instigators, but these instigators of the Ramayana, of Srimad Bhagavatam, of so many things, then of course we can see a little clearly according to our limited vision, but some of them are a little baffling. Why Narada Muni stirs things up, but he stirs things up in order to get the Leela moving, to get things going. So
Maharaj, since it's back to Bhakti Basics class, here is the question to the teacher.
Oh, I'm meant to be. Okay, who's the teacher? Kumkum.
So yesterday we were speaking with Goswami Maharaj, and then he mentioned to me that he just, even though he heard it so many times, but he said, I never paid attention. In all these years, I never paid enough attention, but there are stated some reasons of downfall of Ramana. And as we all know, there are plenty of reasons of his downfall. But one of the most prominent was he angered Sita. That was it. He angered Sita. And considering Sita Devi's description, what we hear from our Guru Varga, Valmiki's Ramayana, she is not easily angered. If it's her own discomfort, it's not going to anger her. She will take it humbly, with tolerance. So yesterday, Maharaj just said aloud and saying, I said, so Maharaj, tell me, what is it? He said, oh, bro, I'm still thinking. So my question is, Maharaj, do you have any realizations about that? or some ideas, because it is kind of open to talk.
Prabhu, I'm thinking, and I can't contribute anything to that answer outside speculation. And really, we're not here to speculate. And also these subject matters are very high. Actually, I mean, they are very high and subtle and solid. So I can't contribute to that. And if Goswami Maharaj can't come up with a solution to his own question, and then even if I had something, it would be my audacity to say something. Except sometimes we have heard something and then we mentioned to Goswami Maharaj, and Goswami Maharaj mentioned in course of conversation, because sometimes we're with Gurudev and we've heard some things when he's not been there. And with Guru Maharaj also. But actually most of those would be recorded too. But no, the answer is, I am also meditating on the subject matter now. Does anybody, Kumkumdiri, as we considered you maybe our teacher, have you heard something in this regard of Sita herself being angered, but it would not be for her own matter?
No. Not me. I don't have particular to Sita Devis. I'm of course reminded of the Vaishnava quality of, as you were pointing out, Paramananda Prabhu not taking any anger for something done to herself, but for her dear Lord. Of course, it's impossible that she would not be angry, but that's a general Vaishnava quality.
Okay. To be revealed, when it is revealed to somebody, we can say. And just we're on Facebook. I mustn't forget we're broadcasting on Facebook this week by Praneshwari's very efficient reminder to me. I do have Facebook on, and but I still have to look at it as well as have it on. So Chintamani and Jayadev, who are with us there, and Anukul Chandra, who is with us there live. And that's all I can say. Oh, and Joan, and who I'm thinking, trying to remember the devotee name. I know you're a devotee. I maybe pronounce it.
Jashamati. Is it Jashamati, Maharaj?
Oh, I do not know.
Joan?
Maybe.
B-O-E-N is the last name.
Wonderful.
Yes, Jashamati, yes.
Wonderful to have you with us, Jai. And Brajamohini also joined us on Zoom quietly too. Brajamohini, you slipped in very quietly to us, and Anu Krishna Reddy too. So obeisances to you both, and obeisances to yourselves on Facebook, and to anybody else who may be there. Jashamati Dedi, Jai, very happy that, really very happy that you're with us. And yesterday I had a very beautiful conversation with a dear friend, another dear friend from long ago. And we are inspired by that. Prema Sindhu Prabhu means in South Africa. I mean, really, it was just like no time has passed since we had a conversation. And on another day, we can list some of his devotional qualifications and something specifically, how much grace he got from Gurudev. So many devotees, when we see their lives and remember their pastime or Gurudev's pastime with them, then we can say so much grace. And Jashamati Didi is with us here today, and Srila Gurudev giving so much mercy to her. Prema Sindhu Prabhu in so many exceptional circumstances, so much mercy. And we had here in Italy, Devakinandan Prabhu, who's a disciple of Gurudev I'd not seen for years. And he was with us for a few days recently here in Italy. I knew him as a brahmachari. Now he has a wife and 4 children and another one on the way. And so interesting from his side too, and he's very aloof not irresponsible, but very calm amongst all the things happening with his children and this, that, and the other going on around. Very calm. How the world, the journey of everybody's life in this world goes on and is different. And Brajamohini there in Texas too. Right, Brajamohini Didi, all the devotees have some special gift for us all. And so Jivana Didi, can we ask you some contribution about Ramachandra if you like, because it is his appearance day or evening there in California still. But your microphone is muted and we're not good at lip reading. Good.
Well, Divya Shakti and Paramananda covered so much, and I probably won't know much more than that, but it does make you want to think about the Avatar song by Jayadev Goswami and how he's listed in there. It's very beautiful. The only other thing I was thinking was in the Prapana Jivanamrita, it's just like one drop from Ram Leela, but it's that verse by I guess it's by Jamunacharya, because I was thinking about that because I thought, oh yeah, it's Ram Navami today, so I should try to read something about that because I'm reading this book right now. But it's just really, really brief, but because it's from the Prapana Jivanamrita, it's very beautiful. And it's the chapter Confidence in the Lord's Protection. And it's the verse 11 by Jamunacharya. And Gurudev's aphorism is the deliverer of even repeated offenders. And the verse is, O Lord of the Raghu dynasty, just for bowing his head to you, you were merciful upon that crow who was so offensive that he clawed at the breast of Sita Devi, was one of the pastimes. And O charming Krishna, you awarded the salvation of merging into your effulgence, Sayujamukti, to Sishupal, who was also an offender birth after birth. Now, please tell me, is there any offense that cannot be pardoned by you? So that was what I was reading that is a little bit related. I mean, is a bit related to this day.
Yes.
The mercy of Lord Ram towards even the offensive crow.
And in Prapana Jivanamritam also, Guru Maharaj quotes the verse of Ramachandra when Ravana's brother, so I get the right name?
Vibhishan.
Vibhishan. When he, because he's Ravana's brother, but he surrendered to Ramachandra, and then all of Ram's associates are saying, hey, be careful about this person. You know whose brother he is, don't you? And of course, Ram knows everything. But he said, but one who surrenders unto me and says, I am yours, then Ramachandra says, if they once come in with this mood, I will never neglect them. And so this is very hopeful. And perhaps that's in the chapter of the words of nectar from the Supreme Lord, Bhagavat Vachanamrita. That also some reference. Hare Krishna. Jayananda Prabhu. Hari Bol. Dandavat. Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Your microphone's off, so we can't hear you, but all right. Jai Jayananda Prabhu. Okay.
Maharaj, perhaps you can tell another verse that Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev liked very much, but coming not from a holy group in Ramayana, but from an unholy group.
From an unholy group. Help me out, somebody.
Ravana's verse.
Oh, yes, okay. Chinmoy Dev knows about this.
I have some inkling. I'll remember when I hear it, but I do remember Ravana. I mean, he was a pious person, we can say. He performed many pious activities. Otherwise, how could he get such a position? So these demons in the Lord's pastimes, they've all are, you know, had performed some pious activities. So they had some knowledge. They had some transcendental knowledge.
Śrī Rāma-navamī. So about Ravana, yes, certainly. And anyway, many things. And if he hadn't offended Sita, then probably his kingdom would have flourished and flourished, because he knew what was auspicious and inauspicious. But on then another aspect of this is that we hear Gurudev telling that it was lust and ego which was the downfall of Ravana. So he had so many pious qualities, and he ruled a very flourishing kingdom and so many things. So I'm sure Paramananda, or I expect, I may be wrong, because we're all subject to be wrong, Paramananda was probably referring to then after Ravana is defeated and he's on his deathbed, he's going to pass away, but he's dying slowly. And so Ramachandra sent Lakshman and said, well, we're about to rule the kingdom. We're just about to come and rule the kingdom, but we're not experienced. We've been in the forest in exile for so long. So go and ask to Ravana about some tips, some advice of how we should rule the kingdom. Then I think Chinmoy can take it from there. No, oh, okay, then we'll continue. We'll tell the story through. And then Ravana went and he saw he's dying and he's very weak. So Lakshman went to Ravana. Lakshman saw Ravana was very weak and lying down. So he went to his ear and asked, oh, Ramachandra has sent me to get some advice from you about ruling the kingdom. And then Ravana is very weak and lying, and he said, okay, but you know everything. You've got Ramachandra, he knows all things, so you'll be fine. Just, that's all I can say. And then Lakshman went back to Ramachandra, and Ramachandra said, what answer is that? How did you ask to Ravana? And then Lakshman explained, and then Ramachandra said, come with me, I'll show you how to ask. So he went to Ravana, and then Ramachandra went first to Ravana's feet. Maybe not lotus feet, Ravana feet. Went to Ravana feet, and then gave him praise about the praiseworthy aspect of his life. And praiseworthy indeed, as we just mentioned. Oh, you ran a flourishing kingdom, you were you're able to protect your citizens, you had so much strength in order to keep everything in check properly. Please give us some tips, some advice of how to rule the kingdom successfully. So, but he made the question after he'd first come to the feet and glorified him. So first came with humility, gave respect, honored him, then came to ask the question after that. And then Ravana, satisfied with his glorification, etc., and the humility of the question, then he gave that advice from Ravana that Paramananda wants to hear. Ravana uvacha. So Ravana said, what? That if something is inauspicious, but it needs to be done, but it is not a good thing, then delay as long as possible. Then don't do immediately. Delay as long as possible. Give time. But if something is auspicious to do, it is a good thing to do, you should do immediately. Do not delay. This was the guidance from Ravana, and Gurudev happily quoting this, and Guru Maharaj happily quoting this. And this is very good tips for our advice, tips and advice for our life. And Gurudev, he had on his wall, he had us make and print on his wall in English and in Bengali, the phrase, wait and see. And the whole phrase is, wait and see what is the descending wish of the Lord, and then do that. But in particular, Gurudev did find himself surrounded by many problems, and some problems which came up very, very like fiery way from devotees in different places or circumstances. But Gurudev couldn't be drawn into making like rash or quick statements about inauspicious things when there's disputes between devotees, fighting is going on, this is happening, that's happening. Gurudev waiting to see, and then if something really has to be done, then as long as possible to wait until it has to be done, now cannot be left any longer. But that's not wait and see for auspicious things. The auspicious things need to be done immediately. And this was also, we saw this is Gurudev's life, always wanting to do immediately whatever savor is required.
Maharaj, like Chinmoy, there Prabhu mentioned how Ravana was very intelligent and pious in a way to a certain extent. And he followed certain Vedic principles in the society. So when he was in this position, realizing that he is in a very difficult situation because of his lust and his ego, he went to seek advice from Bali Maharaj, his grandfather. And that is also a very interesting story, because that illustrates that we should take good advice. We should really pay attention to that. And he actually went there, so it's a good intention. And what happened there is also quite humorous, because as we know, the Bali Maharaja's palace is guarded by Vamanadev.
Vamanadev, yeah.
There you go, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And out of affection for his devotee, and Bali Maharaj asked for a blessing, and he captured Vamana in his heart, and he is stationed at his gate. So when Ravana, who conquered 3 worlds, we hear that he conquered the Swarga, the middle planets, including Earth, and also underworld. Everything was conquered by Ravana. There was no opposition whatsoever. So he's very proud, and he's walking through the gate, and suddenly there's a guard and says, "Stop, who you are? You doesn't look auspicious to me. State your name." So, "I am a Ravana, the king of 3 worlds. What are you talking about? Get out." And then, Vamana didn't like his behavior and attitude. In like, our United States police, he did a neck lock on Ravana and subjugated him. And then in the meantime, the people gathering, and Ravana is there, and Vamana's knees on his neck, and he said, "Who is this person? Anybody knows?" He's claiming that he's somehow related to our Bali Maharaj. And they said, "Oh, Bali Maharaj accused himself. Yes, Paul, please release him. It's my grandson. Please forgive me. I did not mention it before, and please forgive his behavior." And that Vamana said, "Okay, now you're free to go." And Ravana, his ego is bruised. How is that possible? I conquered everybody in this guard here. He did this to me. What kind of personality is that? I mean, anyway, he's trying to digest. Bali Maharaj takes him to his garden and says, "So what is your predicament? Please tell me." Ravana tells the story. "This is what happened. I kidnapped this wonderful woman. I'm overwhelmed by the desires for her. Happened to be Ram's wife. And people are saying that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. It's all nonsense, I know. But I just come here because you had some experience with something like that. So please tell me what to do." And of course, Bali Maharaj, smiling, and said, "Before we start this conversation and before you hear my advice, I want you to do one thing. I want you to move one object from one place to another place." And then Ravana said, Yes, Grandpa, I'm ready for action. Please tell me what to do." There is this, you see there in the garden, there's a gold circle, a circle of gold. Can you just move it over there for me? So Ravana goes, tries to lift, not a millimeter. Tries again with all his might, nothing happening. And then he's very perplexed. "What is this?" And then now Bali Maharaj is smiling and laughing. He said, oh, my grandson, this is an earring of Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha, one of those two. And you cannot lift even an earring. And those were slayed like they were a wasp. Nrisimhadev, he killed Hiranyakashipu like if it was a wasp tearing him in two pieces. And then Hiranyaksha, it was described that, who was that? Shukarup, Varakdev. So Varakdev, he's playing with him like he's some kind of a fly, just some divine play. And you're saying you're going to defeat Ram? And by the way, he is the Supreme Personality of God, Vishnu himself. So please think carefully. And my good advice to you, go back, surrender Sita, apologize, do whatever is necessary to get forgiveness for Ram. Otherwise, you will perish, your kingdom will perish, all your relatives will perish, everything will be lost for you. But despite the good advice, he doesn't follow it. So here's the importance of hearing a good advice. If you come, you have to follow. If you hear good advice, you're supposed to follow that, but he didn't. Too much lust and too much ego. And that was one of his downfalls.
Hare Krishna. An earring. A whole different dimension, just see.
Maharaj, that advice of Ravana, that is one of Janardana Maharaj's favorite advice that he used to give when he went and collected in India amongst the Indians. When he would collect, he said, it's auspicious, you do it now. If it's inauspicious, you can wait. When he was trying to collect.
Right. In India, it works because they are very, everybody knows about Ramachandra. And then in Ram's name, so it is auspicious, right? Do you agree it is auspicious to give to the sadhus, to give to the temple? Yes, yes, I agree. Okay, then do it immediately, don't delay. Trying to seal the deal. So what about from South Africa? We've got our Indian DNA devotees in South Africa, Sevarupa, Mathura Basini Devi Rasi with us. And you had also an evening program for, or day program, I'm not sure, but a program for Ram-navamī. Is there something which you like to share?
Maharaj, we're just enjoying your talk for now.
Okay, but from your childhood, you heard the Ramayana from like 1 year old, did you? Or did you only learn it about later?
Much later.
Or much
I
later?
came from a Saivite background where we were praying to Lord Shiva.
Praying to Lord Shiva, but still Ramayana is popular with so many sections, which you came across much later. Okay.
Yes.
And Sevarupa?
In our home, we did watch the movies, the videos of Ramayana from little. So it used to be like a Sunday, morning that it would play on the television. So we got some knowledge of it from there.
That's the commercial. Is it?
Yes.
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 Okay. So some knowledge, but be careful about details of knowledge. At least we can say that. But yes. Okay.
And
Any
Maharaj, maybe you can
contribution from
you
anybody?
can tell
Yes,
the story. We want you to tell this story, since we mentioned Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, he is also quite involved in the whole Ramayana thing since the very beginning. Like in the beginning, more prominent because the Swayamvara, in connection with Swayamvara of Janak Maharaj and Sita, he is trying to find a proper match for Sita. Remember that story? And there is a challenge.
Net connection?
Maharaj?
Ah,
The Swayamvara of Sita. When Ramachandra goes there and there's this great bow The Shiva Dhanur.
Hear you.
Maharaj.
Okay, my internet went a little funny.
Uh-huh.
So Paramananda, I did miss it. You're saying something that Shiva in the beginning of Ramayana is
The
selecting.
Shiva Dhanur, during the Swayamvara ceremony, Ramachandra breaks it, the bow of Lord Shiva, and wins the heart, wins the hand of Sita.
King Janaka, right? King Janaka, he's trying to find a suitable husband or match for Sita. And then so many people are coming, princes and kings and all sorts of people are coming to say, yes, I'm very strong, I'm very powerful, I go down to the gym, I'm a member of the local club, and whatever it may be, I'm very powerful. And I can string this bow. And apparently it was some kind of a custom, whether it was, I don't think it was even unique to Ramachandra's case. I think it was one of these kshatriya things that you have this big bow, and only somebody who can string the bow, but string the bow and fire it too, perhaps, but at least to string
it was unique for Janak case because he got that bow from Lord Shiva. He kind of inherited it. But it's not unique in a sense. There is always a challenge. You have to prove yourself to the father, see if you're suitable husband for his daughter. So there was, in this particular case, it was the Shiva's bow. But in some other Kshatriya cases, there are probably some other challenges.
Okay, because it's a Kshatriya wedding. So yeah, you have to prove themselves. And then in this case, so many came and they some couldn't even pick up the bow, and some couldn't get anywhere near to putting the string on the bow. And this way, they were all defeated and went going back, hiding their faces like this. But then when this opportunity came, and then Ramachandra came to to string the bow and shoot the arrow, then he picked up the bow like it was a feather, or like it was just practically nothing, just picked it up, strung the bow, and then before putting the arrow inside, then he's pulling, or he maybe had the arrow, but then he's pulling the string on the bow and broke it in two. Then Janaka Maharaj thinks, okay, suitable husband for my daughter here. And this is...
And then 9th canto, there was a beautiful description in that verse describing this particular pastime. He says, just like a baby elephant plays with the sugar cane.
That's it. That's it, yes. And that bow was from Shiva, okay? I wouldn't have recalled that straight away, I must admit. I didn't read yesterday the 9th canto, that section about Ramachandra, but actually it is a good reminder to read again that section. So you see also Srimad Bhagavatam, the ripened fruit of the whole Veda, the essential parts of the Ramayana, the essential parts of Mahabharata, essential parts of the Puranas, of the very high books which have been presented. They are found there in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Maharaj heart naturally goes to Mahaprabhu Leela Divi Shakti Didi.
Is it Srimad Bhagavatam 9 too?
Because I switched in my mind from Bhagavatam to Chaitanya Charitamrita, because the essential parts of Bhagavatam are in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the essential part of Ramayana Mahabharata given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita we've got the essential parts of Srimad Bhagavatam and of all other, because also there's references to Ramachandra in the Ramayana. We can come to Murari Gupta, who incidentally was Hanuman himself, and Mahaprabhu testing Murari Gupta. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the Veda, and it's got the essential part of the various scriptures that have gone before. But then Chaitanya Charitamrita It has got the absolute essence of the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam and previous scriptures and the more modern scriptures, which doesn't make them any less, rather the more modern scriptures which have got more in them, coming from Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and various other places of these high books which weren't manifest in the time of Srimad Bhagavatam, but which came later. So again, it's not that now we're going to go off and buy a copy of the Ramayana, and I don't know how many verses is Ramayana off the top of my head, but the Mahabharata is 100,000 verses as exists on this earth. And I think Ramayana is longer than the Mahabharata. Am I correct or not? If not longer, at least it's an epic like that. It is huge. 100,000 verses. And by the way, I saw something recently that the Mahabharata is did somebody really count all this? 2 million words. So there's something to think about. But everything comes again for us, especially us in Kali Yuga, where we don't have even the length of life to read all these books in the proper way that we should be reading them. We don't have the memory, we don't have the focus, we don't have so many things. It's Kali Yuga. So we've been very graciously given Srimad Bhagavatam by Veda Vyas, but we've been given Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, where again all these essential points plus are given, and the context of Ramachandra's appearance, the context of Krishna's appearance, the context, as we've just been going through the Dasavatar, of Buddha's appearance, and now Mahaprabhu's appearance. And don't forget, Ramachandra is Krishna in one of his particular leelas. But the full Krishna, Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Maham Bhajami Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Krishna
Maharaj,
Vrindavan. Yes, Devi Shakti.
I was wondering to know what is the canto? I know it's 9-2, but the pastimes of the Ramayana is it 9-2 or is it 9-3? Maybe Paramananda Prabhu might know 9-1 or 9-3 or whatever.
Well,
Or
I
is
don't know
there?
off the top of my head, but if you just check on the vedabase.io, then when you go to the 9th,
9-10,
I just 2?
10th chapter.
Oh, 9-2, 10th chapter. Because I just
No,
pulled the 9-2
9
out.
canto, 10th chapter, chapter
Oh.
10.
Okay.
And just since we're talking about it right now, verse 4 is actually accepted as the pranam mantra for Ramachandra and quoted by Srila Guru Maharaj, and Srila Goswami Maharaj graciously reminded that. And really, it's a unique verse. And in one verse, you can see how wonderful the Sanskrit compositions of Srimad Bhagavatam is. In one verse, the whole Leela in a compressed form. Just one verse gives you the whole Leela.
On verse 4.
Verse 4. That is the pranam mantra.
The significance of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, born, something about Ramachandra. Can you speak about that a little bit before we leave?
It was a, oh,
no, please
Maharaj,
say.
please.
Please,
Maharaj,
no.
please.
I just came up with that verse 4 because I thought, well, this is, if you're pointing this out. So should I just mention first the translation for verse 4? Because I brought it up. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, which is about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And remember, this is the 9th canto. The next canto is going to be Krishna. our Krishna Leela. So this is Rama Leela is in the 9th canto, the last of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now 10 chapter will then be Krishna Leela. So Paramananda pointing out verse 4, and Goswami Maharaj pointed it out, Paramananda is pointing it out, and I'll read you the translation. So quote, and who is speaking? It is simply, this is the recitation. It's Vedavyas writing. So this is translation. To keep the promise of his father intact, Lord Ramachandra immediately gave up the position of king and, accompanied by his wife, Mother Sita, wandered from one forest to another on his lotus feet, which was so delicate that they were unable to bear even the touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was also accompanied by Hanuman, or by another monkey, Sugriva, it's got in brackets here, king of the monkeys, and by his own younger brother, Lord Lakshman, both of whom gave him relief from the fatigue of wandering in the forest. Having cut off the nose and ears of Shurpanaka, thus disfiguring her, the Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravana to kill him, like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. So this is the pranam mantra to Ramachandra. My goodness. Hare Krishna. Okay, well, we're well over time, but briefly about Guru Maharaj's appearance. Then we know that Guru Maharaj's parents, they prayed to Ramachandra and gave the Ramachandra Kavacha for the protection of Guru Maharaj after his appearance. Now I've lost my, okay, now I can see you again. I was reading the other side. And I'm trying to think about his appearance specifically related with Ramachandra. We know that his family were very faithful to Ramachandra, that Guru Maharaj, he had much attraction for Ramachandra Leela in his young life. And as Guru Maharaj says, I was not so attracted to Krishna Leela because of the clear morality in Ramachandra's Leela and more difficult to understand morality, or you can say external, not moral behavior in Krishna's Leela. And Guru Maharaj, he was attracted to the moral side, to the austere side, to the sacrifice side. Guru Maharaj explained these kind of things to the devotees on different occasions. And the Ram Kavacha, I believe, without reading, I can't remember the details, but certainly Ram Kavacha was given for protection of Guru Maharaj as a baby, but the detail I'd have to do just a little homework to say about.
So his name, Maharaj?
Ramendra Bhattacharya.
Ramendra Chandra Bhattacharya.
Chandra Bhattacharya. Also referring to Ram, but maybe
Saraswati Thakur,
a good Leela memory. You can say something which we haven't said without
Maharaj, I don't remember anything particular on Kavacha part, but his name, as we know, given name was Ramendra Chandra Bhattacharya from the parent side. And then Srila Saraswati Thakur, he changed it to Ramendra Sundar. And then, of course, later, after discovering the place of Mahaprabhu and Ramananda, Rai Ramananda Leela, he became Ramananda Das, and then later on Bhakti Rakatra with Goswami Maharaj. And what we heard from Srila, I heard from Srila Gurudev, you probably heard it from Srila Guru Maharaj himself on numerous occasions about, but his parents, they prayed to Lord Ram for the son to come. And also, of course, they prayed to Lord Ram for the son's protection when he was young. This is what I heard from Gurudev saying. And that, yes, whatever you said, that he was very much attracted to Ram Leela because of its dharmic aspect, and he can really appreciate that in his young age. And then it was changed by the grace due to the association with Srila Saraswati Thakur, and Mahaprabhu Leela became a prominent in his life.
Krishna, Krishna. All right. Anyhow, the Ramayana is very big, and everything about Ramachandra is very big. How about Hanuman? We hardly mentioned Hanuman. So to be continued, because as we started at the beginning, then Gurudev saying that the purpose of Ramachandra's appearance is to show the glories of his servitors, and to show the glories in particular of Dasyaras, and the perfect example of Hanuman. And so Hanuman, please forgive us, we didn't mention much about you today. We should have done so, no doubt.
They
But
say
Hanuman,
wherever there is Hanuman, there is victory.
Jai, wherever there is Hanuman and wherever there's Krishna, right?
Yes.
There is his victory, yes.
And Arjuna, don't forget that.
Right.
The servitors.
You caught me
It
on
was the
only
flag.
part of the verse, right?
It was the flag of Hanuman.
All right, dear devotees, the clock is running by. We're very happy to have you all with us. And Jagamohini, did he joined us also on Facebook? Dandavat to you all. Dandavat to you all on Facebook. Dandavat to you all on Zoom. All who will also see in the coming hours or days, the recordings. I hope everybody can just take us as we are and share some reflections on these days. And of course, Ramachandra Leela, it is very foundational, folks. So it fits in with our back to basics, because we need to know something about Ramachandra. And Praneshri raised her third hand with...
One second. I just want to honor Sudarshan Prabhu, because last Saturday he gave a class to the kids.
Yes.
And it was about Lord Ramachandra, and he emphasized on these verse 4, Shri Prabhana Jivanamrita 9.4, and told the kids and told all of us to learn this verse and to ask to be brave, because the Lord will help us to be brave. And I posted on Facebook for the moms, for the parents to help the kids to learn it.
So it's Prapana Jivanamritam 9.4.
9.4.
Prapana Jivanamritam.
Yes, it says, if one seeks refuge in him just once, he awards fearlessness to that person forever.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
That one.
And by the way, I noticed in the chat, Bhajan Mohini pointed out that Google says that the Ramayana has 24,000 verses. Okay.
Free Google, Uvacha.
Yeah, we cautiously take everything from Google, but it was from Google, I believe, that I saw that Ramayana had... No, it wasn't Google. It was not Google I saw that. I was reading something else about Mahabharata had 2 million verses. All right. Anyhow, That's a good advice. So what? So Praneshri Didi, are you giving us all this shloka to learn for next week? We said we need some homework.
Okay, let's take it as homework then.
So Prapana Jivanamritam, chapter 9,
9.4.
verse 4. You all need
Yes.
to probably pick it up from wherever you've got your Prapana Jivanamritam. All right. So I'm going to make a mini note that we've asked that for next means after, we've only got 3 days to learn it. 30, yes, 3 days to learn one sloka. Let's see how we do. It's a short verse.
It is.
All right, but in my world, unfortunately, I need to keep my wheels turning. Okay.
This one.
Very good. There is the verse. If one seeks refuge in him just once, he awards fearlessness to that person forever. Now remember, that first line, that is not the verse, it is Srila Guru Maharaj's aphorism. He's pointing out the speciality, like the part he's pointing out of this verse. So the verse is, Sakrit eva prappanno yastavasmiti cha yachate abhayang sarvada tasmai dadam yetad vratang mama. It is my pledge, Ramachandra saying, that if anyone just once sincerely petitions me for shelter, saying, I am yours, then I grant him courage for all time to come. And what will be very helpful is if we can get the word by word for that Sakriteva Prapanno, because that is the verse. But if we can get the word by word, which we can, but I can't do right now because I've got another duty coming in a moment. Then we can put, maybe we'll send to Praneshri, or Praneshri can find it, and we'll put on Facebook.
I will post it. I will post it on Facebook tonight.
All right.
So we
And
have we
help
have
us.
everything ready for Saturday.
So from the kids' class, you see, we're getting our inspiration, and we do get inspiration from the kids' class. Don't think it's only for children by age. It's for us all. We are all children in devotional service, for sure.
Okay, here it is. Chinmoy has it. Perfect.
I knew he would do it. I knew he would do it.
Perfect.
In the chat.
Perfect. All right. Dandavat pranam to all the devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And please excuse just a very quick ki jai at the end, because I have to set up for a program in 8 minutes time. So I just need to keep on moving. So Jai Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Guru Maharaj ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Vaga ki jai, Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Vrinda ki jai, and our Chaitanya Saraswati Mat deities in Navadip, always in our heart. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhava Govinda Sundarju ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai, live and to come, and all the worldwide Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Lord.
Dandavat, Dandavat.
Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj.
Govinda ki
Jai.
Jai. Thank you,
Jai
Maharaj.
Śrī Rāma-navamī ki jai, Śrī Ramachandra, Śrī Sita Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman ki jai. Jai Hanuman ki jai, Jai Hanuman ji ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari.
Hari Hari
Vivo,
Lord.
vivo.